Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode in Word of Sewing. Our topic is sewing terms and terminologies. This class promised to be very interesting because you are going to become master in using sewing words. Relax and let's get started. Know your sewing terms and the language of sewing. You need to know your sewing terms and the language of sewing. When you learn to sew, you are introduced to a lot of new vocabulary words and phrases. And to help you understand these words and phrases and be more conversational about your new crafts, I have put together some of the most common sewing terms and what they mean. I want you to master these sewing terms and their definition. Hope you will find them interesting. So, ride along with me. Now let's find out what do we mean by sewing terms. Now, what are sewing terms? Sewing terms are exactly what it sounds like, words and phrases used within the sewing word. That is the word that we use within the sewing word. If you hear the word basting, you may think that we are talking about keeping a chicken or turkey most. No, but in that is in cooking. But however, in a sewing circle, this word basting means long losing stitches that hold fabric temporarily in place. Say, you are you feeling more like soya yet? So you can see there's some terms that you need to understand. It may mean something to in another word, but to sewing word is another thing. So that is what we are talking about. When we are saying sewing terms, we are mean that the word and the phrases that are used within the sewing words. Basic sewing terms. So we are starting to kick off with basic sewing terms. Now, in order to understand some basic rules of sewing, you need to know the basic sewing terms. And understanding this term will help you to read patterns, follow instructions, and talks about what you are doing with a better vocabulary. If somebody is doing something, they just ask you, what is it you are doing? You will be able to use exactly the sewing, the correct word for it. Now, we will kick it up with a seam. We are all familiar with seam. Now, seam is the line that is between two pieces of fabric that are sewn together. Is the line where two pieces of fabric are sewn together. You can see from my image here, that's in blue materials there. Now, lining and inner layers of fabric underneath a garment. You can see those ones, we have different colors of linings there with yellow, blue, gray color, red. Those are the lining that you put underneath a garment. Now, the final one, we have a seam allowance. This seam allowance is a fabric that is between the edge and seam. The seam may be different depending on the type of fabric that you use. You can see it there. So let's continue with our basic sewing terms. We have quilting. Quilting. Quilting means stitching two layers of a fabric together with a layers of feeding in between a consistent pattern. Now you see from our image there, we have a white background there of a material and there is a blue that is paste another one. So you will continue to paste it. When you paste something like this, that is what we call stitching two layers of a fabric together and you have a consistent pattern. That is what we call quilting. Backstitch. Now, backstitch is a process of sewing backward over the loose thread at the beginning of a stitch. And you do that in order to secure your stitch. Hem. Now, hem is the edge of a fabric that has been folded. You can see it there at the edge of your clothes that is being folded and sewn sewed under in order to keep what the raw edges of that fabric from being loose. So you just protect it when you fold it at the edge. That is what we call in. Then we have what we call darts. Now that is a wedge shaped fold used to shape pattern. in order to make a garment fit better. So when you have a cloth that is loose, what you are going to do when you see them making a dart, is the dart that give the shape of a material out. Sewing words and phrases. So let's find more on sewing words and phrases. We want to look at the sewing words and phrases. Now, the art and practice of sewing come with a huge vocabulary. There are many different kinds of sewing tools, stitches, fabric elements, and techniques associated with sewing, which we all know. So we are going to have just a few more words and phrases to help you on your sewing journey and to expand your knowledge of sewing and fashion. So that is why we want to look more on sewing words and phrases. It's going to help you to expand your knowledge of sewing and in the fashion world. Now let's start our world, the sewing world with ruche. Now you can see the ruche there. So ruche is a garden ruffles or plaits of a fabric used for trimming or decorating garments. To gather, that is to gather fabric in a repeating pattern. Can you see it there? In a repeating pattern to make such a plait or a ruffle. So that is what we call ruche. When you see something like this in sewing world. Faces. Now, faces is an extra layers of material. Can you see it? The different. Just look at the edge there, the neckline there. So, faces is an extra layers of a material sewn to the inside edge of a pieces of clothes to make it stronger. Now you sew it where? Inside of the clothes to make it stronger. Now you can see this in a neckline. That is how they used to put a faces. You can see it in a neckline or armhole. That is where they use faces. So when you see extra layers of the material that is so inside a edge, it means faces. Number three, embroidery. I'm sure you have heard that one also. Embroidery. Embroidery is a hand sewing techniques used to decorate sewing and decorate fabric with needle made design. You can see there. So you can make use of hands to do this embroidery. It is an hand sewing. You make use to decorate a fabric, and then you make a colorful thread is generally used, which you can see them to decorate a fabric. Now, more on our sewing words and phrases. Pleats is a fold that is created by double the fabric. You can see it there. Is a fold that is created by doubling the fabric over itself and then stitching it together. You can see the split there. Is when you fold on a fabric by doubling it and stitching it together. Now the next one is sewing lotion. Sewing lotion is an item that is sewn or attached to a finished sewing project such as button or snap, which you can see in our uh, image there. That is sewing lotion. Yoke. Yoke is a design element of the top part of a garment to fit over the body. Can you see it there? It's a design was an element at the top, especially on your skirt. It's a design element at the top of a garment to what to fit over the body. Arm side. That arm side is in the layman terms, or rather in the sewing word, is arm hole in a shirt. You can see it there. It's an arm hole in a shirt. Cord. Cord, you see that one. Cord is seen in a fancy cotton, and sometimes we use it for Christmas decoration. A cord is made of a twisted fabric. It could be thick or narrow depending on the use. Darling, yes, you can see it there. There is a stitch with different color there. So darling is a technique. They use this one for technique. If you want to repair holes in a fabric, there is a hole there, but they use it systematically. You can see the way it was being sewed. So darling is a technique for repairing holes in a fabric by hand using only a needle and thread. So at times you will see some clothes like that people are wearing that we will wonder why is this like this. So it is called darling. Dripping, yeah, dripping. See the dripping there. It's created new garments by dripping and pinning the fabric on a dress form. You can see it there. It will be coming down. You are creating what? A new garment by dripping and pinning the fabric in a dress form. Dripping creates a three-dimensional representation of your ideas and allow you to see how a fabric will hang on a person. You can do it there. Dressmaker, yes, we're also familiar with that. A dressmaker is refers to a person who make a custom clothes for women. More words on the sewing ways and the phrases. Highlights. You can see the one with the hole there. That is what they call highlights. When you see something like that, it means they are holes made in any material which are finished with either hand stitches or with metal pieces, especially the metal pieces they are made for it. You can see it in the image there. Then another one we call it embellishment. That is a decorative item added to improve the look of a garment or other project. Can you see that design on that material there? So it's a decorative item that is added to improve the look of a material, that is garment or fabric or other project. It can include button, bead, jewelries, ointment, stitches and so on. So you can use all these things to add more decoration on a garment. So they call it embellishment. And also we have cutting mats. I'm sure you are a user of that. You can see it on the image. Cutting mats. Now, cutting mat is a self healing board used for cutting fabric on. So they are often marked with a measuring grid, which you can see it there. And then also we have what we call gather. Now, gather is a ways of gathering the fabric to create a fullness in the fabric, such as ruffles. You can see the image there. So when you see clothes that have this, is a gather. Now, final one on our word of sewing words and phrases. Now, we have what we call needwork. Needwork is a term that they use for handcrafts of a decorative sewing, something that you use your hand to make, you decorate it, so we call it needwork. Overlay. Now, this overlay is referred to a top layers of a fabric. You can see the image there. So it is a top layer of a fabric where there is a different one under it. So you can see the material there is different from the one. So the one on top, that's what they call overlaid. Pattern. I'm sure you have heard the pattern. Now, this pattern is a template on a paper or cardboard. You can see the way they made that pattern there on a cardboard, which all the pieces of garments are traced onto the fabric. All the parts are then cut out and assembled to create the final piece. So when we talk about pattern, is the ones you use a cardboard, you cut them into the pieces, then later you join them together to form a final pieces of a material. Now we have what we call zigzag. Now zigzag is sewing stitches. Zigzag stitches is a literary stitch made with zigzag pattern, which you can see they often used to sew along. We use it along a rough edges to prevent them from being loose. So you can also see that zigzag mentioned. All these that have mentioned so far, they are the word and phrases of sewing terms, and I which hope that you be able to remember each one of them. Okay, we have come to the concluding part of the sewing words, terms, and the terminology, and I hope you found this sewing vocabulary lesson very interesting, and I hope it will help you to understand some of the basic sewing terms and phrases. If you learn them and use them often, you will sound like an old sewing profession in no times. And that is what it is. Even at home, if your parents is holding some, you can be able to say, Mommy, this is called, this is what you are doing. And knowing these sewing terms also will surely put you at an advantages when it comes to sewing. I hope the list of sewing terms will prepare you with the knowledge you need to pursue this beautiful craft and become great at it. If you have friends also who are hesitating to join the world of sewing because of this unfamiliar language, please show them these sewing terms and you can all learn together. So I want you to keep learning, keep practicing. Bye bye.